All right. I've held this off for too long. This is actually what I should have started with. How did I begin and what was my life like? So, and as most of you over on the Jake channel know already, um, I am autistic. But I think most of you know. And no, I'm not, I was never saying it to be silly. I actually am. I even had to have ABA come over to my house as a young boy. So that was my very early life. And I was not good behaved early on. I bit the principal, was very violent as a kindergartner. So it took a little bit. I mean, it really did. I'm not going to hide that from anyone. I've really matured over the years. Even back then, I was I was probably to the left of Bernie Sanders. I did, of course, when I believed in everything. Back when I was in elementary school, I was a far left lunatic. I was one of those people way back then. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a chart. Because I think it's actually very, very good for me to show a chart where I stood politically at the time. So this is where I stood at when I was very young. Very, very far left economically, socially center left. I was one of those people, though, that would say, let certain people have rights, not others, which is why I put myself at it. Actually, I should probably put myself there. So that's where I was at the time as a very, very young kid. A big accident, and probably the accident, and even though I was still a sheeple and everything, and this is what really changed my life. It was 2008 or 2009 in October. I happened to type a website wrong, and it led me to and I was a kid at the time, to the United Kingdom version of Nickelodeon. Obviously, some of the shows were different, especially the Nick Jr. shows, very different. And I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot. I thought everything was just the same. Wow, there's a lot of difference. We were taught life is the same. No, wow, this is really, really, really different. Nickelodeon is not the same for everyone. Disney, and then I looked at Disney United Kingdom because one of the ads redirected me to that. Very different from Disney in the United States. The website layout was very different than the one in the United States. And anyone who wants to personally ask me these questions, I would be more than happy to answer what I saw. Very different. Very different. And this led me to typing in random domain endings. So like Spain, then I looked up like what Spain was in Spanish, España. I typed ES. Sure enough, the Spain Disney website came up. And it was the shows were more European, like the UK. Some of them were different than the UK. Most of them were the same, like the UK, but the website did replicate more of ours at the time, where the UK replicated more of the 2007, early 2008 version of our Disney website. It's France and Italy, basically the same thing. Their shows were very similar. Especially the preschool website was very differently laid out. And I'm describing this to you because, of course, I want you to learn my actual childhood and what I've learned. And I'm going to start with every continent. So we're going to start with Europe. And then you got, and I wish I had screenshots of some of the stuff. Unfortunately, I don't. I would have to dig through my computer. I do have old versions of it, and I will post those in my community chat so you can kind of see the big difference. But this was my childhood. And then you got Portugal. There was no, so like back then it was Playhouse Disney. Now I know it's called Disney Junior. There was no Playhouse Disney website for Portugal. It was just all on the Disney Channel website. Um, Portugal, it was that way. There was a couple of Scandinavian countries that were that way. If I remember correctly, I think Finland was that way. So Portugal, I would say Finland, Middle East, and Middle East was part of the Europe continent. By the way, I could tell like there was patterns. They were definitely part of the European continent. South Africa, same thing. Although South Africa, they had their own Playhouse Disney website. And I actually take that back. I think the Middle East did finally get their own preschool website specifically for that age. But like Portugal, and I do probably have a picture or a screenshot of the Belgium. So like everything but the UK, Spain, France, Italy. Basically all the Disney in Europe was the same. It was like a light blue background. The menu was in black and white, and it would say Disney dot, the end of the domain. Um and I'm trying to think what exactly was it like. I do think I'm gonna pause this and pull up a deal here. I do think I have the menu saved. Okay, I can't promise this is going to work, but let's see if I can get it to work or not. I can't promise it. I dug one up from my old computer, put it on here. It should be under my downloads tab. Hopefully, it will work. We will see. Um, yeah, I just went. There it is. Let's see if it'll even work. Yeah, it won't even work. So Ron signature. Okay. So clearly it doesn't work. Oh, that's too bad. I was going to show it to you. Nope. That was like the one thing I had saved. Doesn't work. But yes. That's what it was, a black and white menu, like the Disney dot whatever was in black. The menu was white, and you would like move over this, and it would like, and then stuff would come down and you would press on something. It was really cool. So that was Europe, except for again UK, France, Spain, Italy, which I did find out did used to have, and they saved parts of that website, but with the newer menu. But the rest of Europe, yeah, that was the rest of Europe, and of course South Africa and the Middle East. We're all part of the European network. Canada, there was, I don't know what Canada was. That's tough. Canada was very different. I think they had like it was called the Family Channel. I don't know if they exact. I think that's where they put their Disney Channel shows. Russia was very, very different and very unique. Their website was totally different. You got the it kind of looked like the Home Disney edition. That's what UK, France, Spain, Italy. Actually, they had the Home Disney era. Russia's was very unique though. They kind of resembled it, but it was very different. The Disney Channel shows were mostly the same. The Playhouse Disney ones, I'm gonna say they're more similar to America's. But the website and the design of it was totally different. Totally different in comparison. Not even close, actually. At least with Europe, they used like the old Disney stuff that the US had, modernized it a slight bit, but the concept was the same. The concept in Russia was totally different. Um, and what else? Yeah, no, their concept was totally different. Um, oh, by the way, most of Europe used the Home Disney Channel homepage. Was basically similar, but then once you got into all the other stuff, and this actually applies for all of Europe because the UK in them did it as well. They then would use the 2006 edition of Disney Channel's website for everything else. So that's kind of what you got there. France even had a special video page for Disney Channel and Playhouse Disney. It was actually very, very unique. What France did was very unique, and I don't think any other country did it. They were very unique in terms of that. I felt like they did a really good job. Again, I wish I could pull this up because that would just be great. But absolutely. And Italy was very unique in some ways as well. They used the 2009 versions of the Home Disney, like the My page and the video page and stuff. But then he used like the version 2007 edition of the Disney Channel website, like the original Home Disney version. It was a blend of those two things, and it was pretty unique. But then you got, and I already named the rest of the year. India actually initially shared Europe. Actually, they basically had the Europe version of everything um, at the very beginning. But then it developed their like the Russia did develop their own version of the Home Disney stuff. But like, although the Disney Channel was all the 2006 edition, though still. Um, and their Playhouse Disney was more like America's. Even with the European stuff, their Playhouse Disney was more like America's. Actually, it was basically exactly like America's, except they didn't have the homepage. There was no homepage. There was no homepage, and the stuff was very limited on it. And that was India. Um, and I said Russia's Playhouse Disney was very different. The concept was from Europe, but they did it totally differently. And again, I wish I had. I do think I have a screenshot of the European Playhouse Disney. I will have to share that with you. And then Australia and Asia were basically the same. So not every country in Asia had all the Disney stuff. Only Malaysia. Okay, let's talk about what Asia and Australia did for the most part. Now, I'm going to leave out certain countries. I'm not talking about China. I'm not talking about Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, the whole Oceania, Malaysia, and Singapore. in the Philippines and Vietnam and Thailand in that area. And if you lived in Vietnam, Thailand, and all that, you either had to use the Malaysia to Singapore version of Disney's home website, so they only had it in English. It was a they had their own version of Home.Disney. And I know I'm doing mostly Disney because I did a lot of that as a kid. I did Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network too, but the Disney stuff's the most interesting stuff in my opinion. And I'm gonna get to something that I uncovered as a kid while talking about it. They had their very unique version of the Home.Disney website. It was very different. It replicated version 1, so like the 2007 early 2008 version, but it was again different. The concept was the same but different style. Um what else? And their Disney Channel was like the 2000 mid 2008 version of the Disney Channel, but again their own unique style to it. So it was different. And then Latino America, so anything south of the United States, so Mexico, all of that, and then South America basically had the version 2 website of the Home.Disney when I was growing up. So it was basically exactly like America. Some of their shows were different. Like a couple shows from Nickelodeon, especially on their Playhouse Disney, got onto the Disney Channel there. So it was very different. And the UK, I just thought about this while talking about it. There was a show called What Shall We Do Today on their Playhouse Disney that I grew up with. So again, very different. Australia had what was called on their Playhouse Disney the Bite Size Kitchen. I remember that. I remember watching that, um, interacting on that website. And by the way, Asia's Playhouse Disney was the same as America's, so for all of them. So except for China, except for China and Hong Kong and the Korean Peninsula, and I think even Japan's was different, but we'll get to that separately. But every other part of Asia, same. Although their Playhouse Disney, okay, let's talk about their older Playhouse Disney stuff because I looked at the older stuff as well. They actually replicated they did not have our 2006 version of Playhouse Disney as their older version. They actually used the Disney Channel website from 2006 and just added the Playhouse Disney logo and all the shows. But it was its own separate thing. So any of you that grew, and I know Disney's the most popular, which is what I'm talking about, my experiences with it. Europe. There was and I remember growing up with this Disney Cinemagic. That was a European thing, so it was nowhere else. It was just in Europe. I remember that as a kid. They had a print station in Europe. The game called Top Trumps. Um, and I learned that Pete was the first character over Mickey in that game. So you had separate categories for Top Trumps. Like one was power, one was magic, one was this, one was year, and you wanted to get the oldest year. And I picked Mickey. Yeah, I had a Mickey card, and I picked the year because obviously, okay, I'm gonna probably win. No, Pete. Pete beat me. The Pete card beat me by 1 year. So that's how I learned that. I got absolutely busted in that game. Again, this was mostly a European game. It was in India too. It was in India. I don't think it was in South Africa or in the Middle East though. I don't think it got into that part. Oh, that was another one. That's another exception. Israel. European theme. It had the Disney Channel website that Belgium, Portugal, and all them used, but there was no Playhouse Disney. It was a very different feel, and they had no actual Disney website. It was just Disney Channel. That's all they had. That is literally all they had. Like the menu, there was nothing. It was just a blank menu with the Disney sign on the left, like you would always see. But that's it. It was blank. Other than that, it was blank. I actually may have a copy of it. Hold on. Okay, yeah, and that's why I didn't want to take you guys forever to do that. We're okay, and I just pulled it up, transferred it. Are you freaking kidding me? So I can't look at any of this. How the hell can I look at this one now? Is there any other way I can open it? I'm hoping. I don't think I can. Yeah, no, I can't open it. That's just stupid. Um, I'm gonna try to find an SWF reader, or can I use it on Ruffle? It's true. Do we have Ruffle? I think I have the Ruffle extension. There we go. Let's see if it will let me play it on here. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. No. All right. Let me check some. Took me a minute on Ruffle, but holla frickin' Luga, I got it to work. So this is what you got in Israel and in Serbia. And it was blue. It was not black like this. It was the normal blue color. The only thing you could do on Serbia is Disney XD. Greece, same thing. Greece, same thing. That's all they had. That's all they had. Um, they had nothing else. They didn't have a Disney Channel. They had none of it. So that is what's really really different about these places. So, and I'm glad I got Ruffle to play this. But this was basically it, other than it was the normal blue color. But other than that, that's about it. And then of course, the UK and France used this same menu on their things, except they actually had stuff on it and a search. The search would be right here. Um, America had this in 2007, early 2008 as well. And then they did what Spain and Italy did with their menu. But let me see. Okay, Japan was more like our Disney from early 2000, mid 2008 with the Disney Channel that way and stuff with this type of style menu. And it was based off the version one. Like if you were to although I think they had a couple version 2 things as well. I think it was a mix of both. I think it actually was a blend of both. It was a really odd blend of both in Japan. And a very unique one. Of course, the CCP, China. Their Disney was completely different, and that is the one country I had no idea how to navigate at all. Yeah, it was the version 1 home.disney stuff. So I knew how to navigate some of it. Their Disney Channel, I couldn't navigate at all. Neither could I with their Playhouse Disney. And honestly, with the Playhouse Disney, I couldn't navigate it well in Japan either. But they had some really, really crazy stuff. Very crazy stuff. Not what you would expect. Not what you would expect at all. Very different. They had like a dragon, and just the whole website was weird. So that was that. Hong Kong and Taiwan were more. They had the version one Disney stuff like the UK and France, but also had the Asia version of Disney Channel. So it was a blend of both. It was a real blend of both. Playhouse Disney was like the United States as well. But that was my life. In Korea, there really wasn't anything to do on the Korea Disney Channel. I know it was mostly just promotions. It was mostly just promotions, and it was really just. And if there was stuff, I couldn't navigate it. So there may have been, but I just didn't know how to navigate it. So that was a confusing one as well. Russia's was a little confusing, but I was able to somewhat get through it. Um, I think that was real. Oh, and Australia, New Zealand, and Asia. No, not Asia, just Australia, New Zealand had their own just for Disney Channel. Their video, they had a special video page. Very unique. That was also unique. Something that was improved from us in some way. Um, Anything else that I want to talk about regarding all that stuff? I may have missed something. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, in the UK, there I played a lot of serial games on Nickelodeon on the UK channel. So there was a couple series that were not here in the United States that I learned about during my time, and very different stuff. Very different stuff. No Nickelodeon was like the United States at all. They had a Nick Shack in Australia and in New Zealand. I'll have to find that. I think it's still up online. Let me pause this. I'm gonna pull up the Nick Shack because actually someone had a picture of it, so I don't need to try to find my files. This is what it looked like. Very unique in Australia. Very different. And this was Australia. Again, someone else had a picture of it. I give him credit. But yeah, I did this. And like if you put your cursor on the TV there, it'll actually play stuff, which is very unique as well. And then if you like it'll interact. Very fun. I wonder if they have like the Playhouse Disney and I can explain more of what happened there. Um they they do. They do. They do. They have a picture of it. And I can explain what happened. So you would click let's go. And this is Europe, by the way. Then this flitter or flitta, as they say, there it's a firefly and it navigates you through all the shows. Very unique. Very unique. This is not something that we had here in the United States. Um and then if you hit that, instead of having like an all shows page, you would hit the more shows button and it would just keep going and going and going and going and going. Very unique schedule. Very unique the way they did it. Um Very different. And so you got that. Here, I'm gonna find something else on my computer, on my old computer. So I couldn't find it. I tried to find it, couldn't. So why am I talking about this? Oh, and like the PBS kid shows would be split between Disney and Nickelodeon. Some, in certain countries on Disney, some in certain on Nick, and it would switch depending on what country you lived in. So you had that too. Very strange. Very strange stuff. Cartoon Network, America had their own. All of Europe had their own. Russia, of course, was a part of it. South Africa and the Middle East, like with Disney, all was part of the European coalition. So the same style. Then Asia was all the same. All the Asian ones were. I think the China's was different, and I think Korea's was slightly different as well. But other than that, and so like Australia, Oceania, and Asia, we're all the same. Latino America had their own. I don't remember Canada, and I don't remember most of Canada. Oh, Nickelodeon Canada was boring. I do remember that. That was boring, and it basically it just redirected you to the UK's version of Nickelodeon or the France version, depending on what language you speak. So it was boring. There was nothing. There was no information to be gained. Same thing with Belgium. The Dutch version was fun. The French version was garbage. There was nothing you could do. Nothing that you could do at all. At least from my experience. I don't know what it's like today, but my experience then boring. Um, so why am I mentioning all this stuff? Well, again, this is how I grew up. This is the stuff I did, and what else was I going to tell? There was a reason. Oh yeah. Then I saw some interactions between the countries. I'm like, these websites have really gone backwards since Obama became president. And again, that was at the time. And I saw some weird things going on with some of these Asian countries, particularly the socialist communist ones. I'm like, something's not right with my views. And I actually was to the left of Obama. Something's not right with my left wing views. And then I saw a very scary thing. And that basically made me, I actually became more conservative on both economic and those values. I would say I was more of a, or 60. I was more of a moderate right winger afterwards because I realized something was really wrong just looking at everything. And actually, at the time in 20, and I'm listen, and I'm honest about all my experiences. I was starting to like the Disney over in Asia more than I liked it here. Same thing with Cartoon Network as well. Loved their Cartoon Network in Asia, whether it was Karachi or the Philippines. Much, and actually, by the way, with Cartoon Network, it was more like PBS, where it was certain cities had their different localities, and NBC and Fox. It wasn't like a national thing. So, like Karachi had their own, another part of Pakistan had their own, Philippines, Manila had their own, then another city had their own, and they actually had local TV labels. So, like for CBS for us, for example, or NBC, KCRA. That's our NBC. They had more of that type of style over there in Asia with their Cartoon Network. I don't know about the rest of it, but for their Cartoon Network, they did, and their shows were different. Some of them were the same, but a lot of them were not. Their Cartoon Network in Asia, especially when I changed my views, so much better than the Cartoon Network in America. So much better, and it was not even close. And I'm like, we are going backwards. We're not improving. The media here stinks. Their media, and I was a kid back then, their media there's much, much better. Something's really going on off here. And that's when that changed. And then, the Trump thing came. Now, initially in 2016, I actually really liked Hillary. because my synopsis, and again, I thought everything was real at the time. So you got to give me a pause for that. We haven't gotten to the Jake part yet. Throat kind of got dry there. What's going on here? My bad. So, like I was saying, there we go. Much, much, much better. And by the way, I was going through a big transitional change in terms of lifestyle as well. I used to listen to all the popular pop music from my time. I can't stand that stuff now. Then I moved more into country. Politically, I was more I was starting to lean more Republican 30-70 at the time. Actually, I was more 30. Yeah, I'm going to say 30-70. So I kind of moved a little bit more to the right. But I was huge into Hillary Clinton. Why? My real belief was that, oh my God, they don't want to get rid of Obamacare because it's a Democrat versus Republican thing. This is actually how I thought. This was my thought process. This is a Democrat that can work to getting rid of Obamacare. Because if she's the head of the party, they will have to listen to the Bill Clinton era. And we're going to get rid of Obamacare. And that means the Democrats are finally going to want to get rid of the stupid progressive nonsense. Turns out I was totally wrong. And I actually spied on Russian television. And they had a whole plot to basically lie about the whole WikiLeaks thing and say that they were helping Trump, even though they were really helping Hillary. It was more of like a reverse psyop thing that I found out. As soon as I saw that, changed my vote and never looked at the Democrat Party again. So then I went that route. And then things got really spooky. Then I decided to look at some very bad countries' media. And guess what I decided to do? Let's go look at what's one country that I haven't mentioned yet? North Korea. Let's go look at that. Let's go watch their television. Let's see what it's like there. Sure enough, they have videos of Trump being an anglerfish and shooting it and killing it. Yeah, that actually happened. As a matter of fact, I may have it in my drive. I'm going to pause this and find it in my drive. Hey, look, I actually have it saved. No. And yeah, I was up till 3 in the morning watching this. This aired around midnight my time. Look at this. Tell me that's not Trump's hair. And so when I saw that, when I saw and again, I was still sheeple at the time. When I saw this, and when I saw, then they had a whole meeting that I watched from like a couple months prior. They were in Russia talking about junk. The South African leader was there. I'm like, yeah, they're lying about that being a democracy. There's no way you worship Kim Jong-un and like this nonsense. By the way, this is pretend fake phony football that I debunk as well. So oh, and speaking about that, let me bring that up. I was a huge, massive, beyond diehard NFL fanboy. 24/7, 365. Believed it was real. Believed it was the most fun thing ever. And for a good reason, too. I mean, it really made me happy. That was like my hobby when I started middle school. What is going on here? Why does things keep happening? There we go. Okay, I don't want to watch this. And so that was really fun. And then I discovered playoff predictors. And so that was really entertaining for me too. And we'll get to that. We're actually getting close to that. But I saw this, and then I saw that weapons test. And then I'm like, the CIA documentary for the Senate, because they have one every year, this is a total lie. There was totally a long range weapons test. I watched it with my own eyes. They're lying. And then Kim, like I said, had the cartoon. And then he said, we're going to get rid of the conservatives, including Trump, however we can. And I'm like, and once the CNN said Trump's going to rig it against Biden using North Korea, I'm like, Joe Biden's won this election. I could have told you in May of 2019 that they were going to rig the election for Biden. Easily. I could have told you right then and there, this election's rigged and it's for Biden. Turns out I got it right. And I saw another thing on their media saying that we're going to have ships handing ballots. Roger Stone pointed that out in Maine. How funny that this was the script. And I read it. I basically read the script 1.5 to 2 years in advance. And I knew this was coming. What do you think about that? I knew this was coming. Oh, by the way, Democrats threatened to put me in jail. They did hack my computer, but they never put me in jail. And we're going to get to why in a minute. Never put me in jail. And I was threatened by the left, quote unquote left. And then came the interesting part. And this is the fun part that we all get. And then I worked, for a little bit. When my restaurant closed basically a week after, then I caught this guy. And this, where is it? And I want to find it. My first Jake video ever, right here. My first ever one of watching him. At first, I thought he was a crazy, crazy man. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was a very creepy, very deluded man. I'm not going to lie. I did think that. And I always watch even people I hate or I think are weird because I like looking at all sides. And then I looked at, okay, does anyone else talk about this guy? And then I did see other people talking about this guy, Jaron. He supposedly exposed Jake for being a horrible, horrible human being. And initially I did believe him because I thought his videos were weird and stuff. But then I'm like, okay, let's look at what the pictures that our Jaron is showing. And let's look at the video from here that is very similar to that picture. And let's compare them. Turns out Jaron was a liar. And this guy was completely correct. Jake is innocent. He's 100% innocent. And that's how I came to like him. I'm like, this guy really is onto something. And then I looked at more of his videos. I'm like, wait a minute. And then I thought to myself about the North Korea thing. Why haven't they arrested me? Why haven't they done this stuff? And it turns out Jake's 100% right. It's rigged. It's faked. It's scripted. And when I heard that about football, I cried the entire night because the thing I loved and worshipped the most was shattered right in front of me. Although I really do thank him because he has shined a light on the fact that it's not real. And I thank him for that. I give him a lot of credit. It took me a day or two to get over it. But then I realized this guy's completely right. And now this is my favorite YouTuber. I want to thank you, Jake, for everything that you've done. You have really shined a light on everything for me. I feel bad that you're being bullied by these people because I initially bought into it, but then, like I always do, is check, and I always check all the sides. Turns out you were innocent. Turns out these people were just a bunch of fakes, and I am very happy I found this guy. If it weren't for the algorithm stroke, I don't know where I would be today. Um, and by the way, even before this, and I forgot to tell you this part, but I wanted to get this part out of the way. I was already hating the two-party system. I re-registered as a libertarian. I still liked Trump at the time, but re-registered, and I actually voted Democrat in a race. It was for Attorney General because when Nathan Hochman threatened to arrest Trump supporters, I'm like, F this guy. I don't care what his party label is. I'm not voting for this guy at all. And he wanted to shove the COVID mandates down our throats. And again, back then, I believed in this stuff. So I'm like, if you're going to be doing this, and this was right before I met Jake, this was right before, if you're going to be doing this stuff and you have an R next to your name, then I definitely don't want you. And turns out I was right. It was all fake. This has been a crappy video to say the least. I'm sorry about that. But and my head is just itching. Anyway, but as a matter of fact, in school, when I was in high school, when I was still a sheeple, I used one of the shows, and I forgot to mention this, in Latino America. It was called Violetta. It was on Disney. Went across basically most of the world except for a few places, the United States being one of them. Now, some rumors say it was on Netflix. I'm not sure. It was never on Disney Channel here. But they did have dubs in English countries, so they did play it in English. And Disney was all about racism, Mexicans need rights, and all this. Never played it here, and I wrote about it. I said, if they insist on these things, why don't, because we had a topic about it, why don't they play the show here? This is kind of a slap to the face of Hispanics. Why don't you play the show in the United States? You already have an English dub in the United Kingdom and in South Africa and a lot of these other countries. Why don't you play it here? Call them out. And that was probably one of my best writings. And I was not good at English for the most part. That was probably one of my best. And there was a political for the SAT. That was probably my best 2 writings that I've ever done. So that's a big plus for me. Of course, I could write a paper easily about how great Jake is as well now, since I've learned everything. But it took me. That's my whole story. I thought I would share it. And yeah, that's how I got to, that was my whole life as a sheeple. And how I woke up to Jake, and how I initially thought he was horrible, but realized I was wrong and I was being duped. Jake is one of the best, if not the greatest, channel on YouTube. Q and Fee is right there with him. And I think both of them. And I think Rose, Emily, Shady Davy, Andy, Freedom Mind, and all the other moderators on Jake who have helped me become awake and become who I am. I thank you all. You all really made me feel welcome, inspired, and you made me really determined to help you guys out. That's why I went after Jaron. last week. I wanted to help you guys out, do the right thing, get the truth out. I am sorry about the dog incident. I really did think it was, so I messed up there, and I apologize for that. But I am here to help you guys out. I care about the truth very much, and I hope you guys will support me, Jake, Shady Davy, and all of us. I really thank you all. Take care.